I grew up in Camden to two parents that came over from Japan and Italy. We had the kind of reversal at home, so my mother was the one who went out and worked, and my father was the one who stayed at home with us. And he's a chef, so he cooked for us most of the time. So growing up was very much about food and being around the table and being a family and eating a lot. But my mother felt like she was the only one who could actually make money because my father he is disabled. So she was very busy working all the time. So when I grew up, I decided to become an artist and eventually studied to become a sculptor. And since I graduated, I was teaching a lot in order to make money. So by the time I was pregnant with my first son, I think I had just started my career, and in a way, having a baby at that time wasn't the greatest time because I could have done things at that time. I think from the time point of view of being a mother, for me, that was the perfect time to have a baby anyway. So I was 31 when I had my son Zach. Basically just gave up everything within my art career, and I decided to stay at home and be a mother. I started to learn a little bit more about what it meant to be a mother. It's like looking after my children's nutrition, and being a little bit more of a holistic type mother, more natural. I was interested in natural ways of birthing and things like that, and decided to send my children initially to Steiner School so that they could have what I felt was the kind of education at the beginning that would be good for them. When you have a baby, for me, from my point of view, I really felt like the baby feels that you are almost their identity, and they don't know any different to you, so they're you are one entity. And as a mother and child, I think you stay like that until at least they're 1 year old. Well, I don't know when they realise really that they are their own person. And so I really felt that at least the initial time was so important for me to be there with them and to offer them the love and support and need and nutrition, everything else that they needed to grow. And as I've been watching them grow up, I've been learning more and more that maybe a baby after the age of 1 still needs you quite a lot. Learning to be a parent is a slow process as well. It's not something that I can just say, right now I'm going to go back to work and do my career, because I'm constantly learning about how to be a mother. When my younger sister came along, she's 10 years younger than I am, and when she came along, my mother was really busy and my dad was working at the time, and she had to go to a babysitter every day, and I used to go and bring her there in the morning and collect her in the afternoon after school. And I just felt really sad for her in that situation, that my mother couldn't have that one-to-one time with her at that time. From what I understood and how I felt, I was quite uncomfortable with it. And I don't know if that informed the way I feel about it now, but I don't think I could do that. If I had to work because we couldn't afford things, maybe I would have to face that, but because I don't need to do that, my answer is no way. From the moment that you give birth, just that opening into having a baby is really, it's kind of like quite mind-blowing, isn't it? And having that connection with your baby, realizing that this body can have a baby, can give birth, that you are able to create. You are the creator. So it's a huge power that you hold within yourself, and I think that is something that maybe women don't really believe that they have, and maybe kind of shun to the side, say, oh, I just had a baby, and then go back to whatever they're doing. But actually it's huge. I spoke to a lady who breastfed for 6 years, and why she would do that. And I found her story quite fascinating. And then because I was within this diner environment, a lot of parents breastfed for prolonged periods of time. With Zach, I breastfed him for about 1.5 years, I think, before I couldn't quite cope with it anymore. But then when my daughter came along, I think I breastfed her until she was just before she was 3 years old, and she decided to stop herself. And I felt that connection between us was much stronger because she had that to come back to as an emotional thing that she could connect to as well. I didn't want to use nappies because I didn't want to add so much to the landfill. Apparently 1 child equals to a whole house of nappies. So, but that wasn't the only reason. It was because from my experience of doing this with my daughter, I realized that it also enables you to, that's why it's called communication, elimination. You learn to allow your child to eliminate naturally, and then also to communicate when that is going to happen with them because they can't speak yet. I realized that a lot of her cries were to do with the fact that she needed the toilet. So when babies cry because they're tired, they cry because they're hungry, but what we don't realize in our society is that babies cry because they need the toilet. If you look at maybe like a tribe of women who'd be carrying their babies around all day long, they would know, they would just put them to the side and then wee them and then pop them back on their shoulder or on their hip. But I can't just do that on the floor here because there's a carpet. So I'd always have to run off to a place and find a toilet. So it's actually really hard to do it in our society. It's just so bizarre how we've been told that we need to use nappies on our children.
Well, it's just a very efficient way.
Well, of course, it's easy because if you leave a nappy on a child all day long, you don't have to do anything, exactly. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, basically all the things that I'm into basically take a lot of time and energy. So nutrition does as well. As the children were growing up, I looked into nutrition a lot and found ways to kind of like maximize on my children's nutrition because this might be quite controversial, but I decided not to vaccinate my children. So I find it very important to give them the right kind of nutrition so that they don't eat rubbish and things like that. But I also don't want to kind of force them into doing things and, make them a bit crazy later on in life.
You've lost touch with sort of the natural way with raising children.
I'm only interested in it myself from a personal perspective. It's really up to each individual. I don't want to like judge anybody else, but this is my journey, and I happen to kind of stumble upon this whole toilet thing. I feel very privileged to be at home, and because of that privilege to be able to explore the ideas that I am exploring. I don't know many people who are able to do that. I do feel that it's having effect on me not having a career, because I would have liked to have done that, but I do feel that there is time to do that later on.